setting up a savings account, having an emergency fund, so that if life throws you a zinger, and it's going to, unfortunately, I promise that is something I can guarantee, that you're able to care for that without necessarily needing to use credit to do that. For folks as they move further down life's journey, especially if they're, retiree, let's transition, making sure that they've got access to good education at the point of transition, especially if there's somebody that's going to transition out of the military and go into a second career. Do you need to spend all of that money? Probably not. Should you be putting away some of that money and doing things with it? Should you ask really great questions when you transition to a civilian employer about their 401k? How do you max out the match that they might provide, and use that as a barometer of where you should go to work? So I think the answer kind of depends based on where they're at. We try to provide education that meets people where they're at. First paycheck, maybe off to boot camp they go, or the person that's very seasoned, retired, has multiple income streams coming in and needs to maximize that because they're closer to retirement age. And maybe if they did or didn't plan as well leading up to that, they've got a shorter runway to get ready.
Welcome to the Military Money Manual podcast, where every episode is all about achieving financial independence in the military faster than before. We believe personal finance shouldn't be boring or intimidating. Building wealth can be simple, and financial freedom is the ultimate financial goal. Now, here's your hosts, Spencer and Jamie.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Military Money Manual podcast. Spencer Reese here from militarymoneymanual.com, joined by my co-host, Jamie. Today in the show, we've got Jodi and Tom from Armed Forces Bank. Jodi Vickery is the Executive Vice President and Director of Consumer Banking, overseeing Academy Bank and Armed Forces Bank. She specializes in consumer credit solutions and product innovation, and she's got over 20 years experience in consumer lending for military members, holding various executive positions. She also co-hosts the Militarily Speaking podcast with Tom. And Tom McLean is here. He's the Senior Vice President and Military Retail Executive at Armed Forces Bank. He's been working there for 16 years, joined them from Walmart, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And yeah, you also co-host the Militarily Speaking podcast. Degree in economics, nicely done. I also have a degree in economics many years ago. Married for 29 years. Wow. Maybe we'll have to get some tips and tricks there.
I'll put a plug in. 30 is October 22nd. So all your listeners will know that now, right?
There you go.
We'll all remind you to get her a present.
I know. Yeah. Could you edit that for me? Yeah.
Yeah. Tom and Jodi, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We wanted to have you on the show because Armed Forces Bank recently commissioned a survey of military service members and veterans, and to try to understand their needs more for banking products. I'll turn it over to Jamie to lead in with the first question.
Yeah, so this study came out in the spring of 2024, May of 2024, and it was really interesting to read through. So thank you, first of all, for sharing it and doing that. One of the things that stuck out to me the most is that people self-indicated the need for more financial readiness, more financial education. That's obviously one of the things Spencer and I are passionate about, and free resources like this podcast to help military families understand their options and their benefits more. Can you tell us a little bit more about the financial education data that came out of the study and what your company and your banks are doing to help with that?
I think what I would say kind of at a macro level about this survey is that it validated things that I think we already believe to be true. It was good to have that validation, especially in a way that we could print and share with others that might have similar inclination to help military families be prepared. It's interesting to me that financial education is at the top of the list. I've been in this space probably for close to 30 years, 28 years, I think, which makes me sound super old, but I'm not. And financial education has been a thread throughout. And so when you think about the nature of the military community, it kind of rolls over on itself as new people will join the service, other people exit the service. There's always fresh faces that need to have that. What do I do as a new recruit? What do I do as I enter the mid stage of my career? And I think kind of overall of that, the current economic environment we find ourselves in creates a need for folks to have maybe more fine-tuned education to know how to stretch that dollar even further with inflation and the cost of just day-to-day living going up.
Yeah, I'll add to that too, because sort of that boots on the ground approach, we've got about 14 locations around the country. We're the largest bank by number of locations at Armed Forces Bank on military insulation. So we're pretty proud of that. So we get to work with ACS and FRG across branches of service to do financial education, whether it's understanding credit, whether it's home buying seminars, whether it's saving for something We get to partner with those organizations, but we also get to attend a lot of newcomers and briefs on the installation. So we get to see the young recruits at Great Lakes when they come in, so we can help them understand a regular checking account, understand a debit card, understand digital solutions, understand responsible credit. So we get a lot of face-to-face, as Jodi likes to call it, kneecap to kneecap, where we are front and center, giving them financial education, giving them tools, giving them the resources that are available. Certainly, I'll throw out a couple things beside your book, Spencer. Certainly, there's a lot of great information. I'm on the board of AMBA, Association of Military Banks of America, and there's a great resource out there, Armed Forces Financial Guide, that gives a lot of topics, probably 175 pages worth of topics that you got, both of you cover with your great podcast, but also just resources available. Our website was recently updated. We have resources galore out there, from cybersecurity to secured versus unsecured credit cards. So as we're sort of a digital / brick and mortar bank, I think we've got to meet their needs both digitally and when we're front and center with them, as they either PCS to one of our locations or as they are career transitioning.
So when you have the opportunity to see the service members face to face and look into their eyes, one of the topics in the study came up was inflation and high cost of living. And like you just mentioned, what are some of the struggles that military families face in addition to moving all the time, high cost of living, and how does that impact the service members?
I think it starts with the fact, and we're probably all in agreement, that for what they do for all of us, not paid nearly enough. So they have very little discretionary income, and you pile on all the things that you just articulated that I don't need to repeat, that challenge that further, maybe differently than a civilian family. And so something just as basic as the cost of eggs going up, the cost of bacon, all of those things add up really quickly. And when you're chipping into a pool of extra money, if you will, that's not very big, you quickly go from maybe having a little bit of money to squirrel away to a savings account and feel good about that, to now I'm struggling to put food on the table. Or it's completely a bizarre concept to me that we would have somebody in uniform that has to rely on food stamps or government assistance to feed their family. But here we are, right? We hear a lot about food insecurity. You see that on some of our podcast episodes. We've highlighted organizations in different communities that are trying to help out with that. Because I think the other thing that we all would know and agree on is it's a proud community. I'm proud to be part of that community. And sometimes it's hard for us to ask for help. So making that available in a way that's comfortable for families to reach out and tap into without feeling any sense of shame or anything that's, not of their doing. But I think it's just covering those basics and then feeling at the same time like you're not failing because you're not doing all those things that you're supposed to be doing to be quote unquote financially smart and prepared. But the reality is there's not very many pennies to stack up. You have to make choices.
Yeah, that can be really tough for, a young enlisted family. If you come in with, already married and maybe with a couple kids, you look at that E2, E3 pay and there's just not a lot of wiggle room there. And one of the places that they can save money would be with their banking products. And so I think it's really important to choose a bank and to look for military-friendly banks that understand the PCS process, that understand that paycheck comes in on the 1st and the 15th of every month, and to have access to an ATM network where they can withdraw cash for free, or they're not going to be hit with extra fees. And so one thing that we always try to do is point people to those military-friendly banks and say, look, if your bank is charging you a fee for a checking account every month, you don't need that. You don't need to do that. There's just way too many options out there now, especially with the advent of completely online banks, that you have so many choices in America. And a lot of times people, they come from these small towns in America and they're just with whatever credit union or whatever bank that their parents were with in this small town. And it's got, maybe 6 branches in the little town, but it doesn't have that global footprint, and it doesn't have the app, and it doesn't have all the online features that you need. And so I think it's really important to point people towards military-friendly banks that can meet their needs. And, they're there for them when they go to boot camp and then they get immediately PCS'd to Italy or to Japan or to England. And now they're in a completely foreign country and they need a bank that's basically 24/7 and is there for them when they're overseas.
Well said, too. And I think one of the things we pride ourselves on at Armed Forces Bank in particular is that 80% of the people we hire in our retail banking centers, they have a military connection, whether they're dependents, veterans, spouses. We're part of the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. We're part of the PAYS program with the Department of the Army to help people as they transition and get into the civilian world for a job too. But I do think from a product standpoint, you're right on, Spencer, when it comes to the value proposition, the choices. What is it, 4,700 banks and the equivalent in the number of credit unions in this country. And then you look at Canada and they've got 5 banks. So it's great to have all the choices out there, and especially with the Chimes and the SoFis and others that are out there delivering financial services when they want them, how they want them, and at a great value. So just in April, we relaunched, if you will, free checking, right? Free checking is back, is how we're positioning that. So we call it Access Freedom. No monthly service charge, no minimum balance. And then we make it easy for people to save, where they can round up to the nearest dollar when they use a debit card transaction. We have come such a long way with the digital solutions for our clients too, whether it's card controls, they can stop or start their credit card, they can put alerts up for transactions. So if I'm in Kansas City and someone's buying something at Ralph's in California, I'll probably raise my hand and say that wasn't me. Because it's an overseas population. If they know what's going on with their accounts and they have financial peace of mind, as the DoD wants Army readiness or military readiness, Air Force readiness, we want to be the ones that can provide that financial readiness and peace of mind. So they've got everything in order. They can do what they're for protecting our country as they should. And they shouldn't have to worry about this stuff.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back to the show. Don't know an IRA from a TSP or an SCRA from a CZTE? Fear not, the Military Money Manual, a practical guide to financial freedom, is here to help. In this concise, no-nonsense guide, our very own Spencer Reese, founder of the popular personal finance site, militarymoneymanual.com, offers invaluable tips and tricks to help service members of all ranks, branches, and bank account levels gain financial independence. Along with laying out the fundamentals of building wealth while serving, the book explains how to take maximum advantage of the unique financial perks available only to service members, whether active duty or reserve, officer, or enlisted. These benefits include special tax-deferred savings plans, preferential bank loans, fee waivers on high-end credit cards, and much, much more. Personal finance is not boring or intimidating. With its candid and accessible tone, this book feels like having a beer with a good and financial savvy friend. So pull up a chair, get comfortable, and learn how to make your military money work for you with the Military Money Manual, a practical guide to financial freedom by Spencer Reese.
The Military Money Manual is available on Amazon, Audible, and my website in hardcover, paperback, ebook, Kindle, and audiobook. Podcast listeners are eligible for a special discount by using promo code PODCAST when they purchase the Military Money Manual on shop.militarymoneymanual.com.
So in this study, I thought it was interesting that one of the findings was the question, how likely are you to recommend your current financial provider? And 25% said never recommend, 19% said unlikely to recommend. So almost 50% of people are not satisfied with their bank. And your survey was, the majority of the respondents were military veterans, retirees, and then active duty in that order by the number of respondents. Just curious if you guys had any insight on why people are unhappy with their bank and anything on that one?
It is kind of interesting, funny, pick your adjective. Think about how connected all of our stuff is into our bank accounts today. So, and you think about what you just shared a few minutes ago, maybe had the same bank since they got on the bus to go off to boot camp. And so you have that's a comfort level. And sometimes it takes a significant emotional event to cause somebody to have a change event in their life. And so maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It could be timing. When you have a financial institution that maybe has done something, when you're messing with people's money, they take it really seriously, which is why we always try to make sure that our customer service is first and foremost, that we provide quick and easy to understand answers to situations. So it may be timing of when they got asked the question. I think we try to be on the opposite end of that. Tom can share maybe about some of our net promoter score information that we tap into. We're very proud of that and how our clients look at us. I think it's a hard thing to do to change your bank anymore. As interconnected as bill pay and web banking is, it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, there was a study in Britain, and the average bank account was held for 17 years versus the average marriage was 11 years. So,
oh, man.
So the headline was, you're more likely to get divorced than you are to break up with your bank. I think that's probably a foul, though, because, if you're unhappy with your current who you're banking with, it's never been easier to sign up and to switch to someone who you could be, happier with. And it's not to say that if you start moving funds somewhere else, like I know a lot of people out there, they'll have their checking account and it might be with a Navy Federal where they can walk into the branch and talk to someone if they need to. But they'll also have their online only high yield savings account like an American Express or Marcus or Ally, and they'll move some money over there, maybe their emergency fund, but they'll also have the physical bank that they can walk into, and that still provides a level of comfort that a lot of people like, because at the end of the day, you can go and talk to someone face to face and get your issues resolved, which isn't always easy to do over an app or over the phone.
Yeah, no, it's important for people to be with a financial institution that they trust. Tom mentioned how many of our associates are intertwined with the military themselves, so they understand what you're going through. And if you're not in that position and you're in reach of this podcast, you should find your way to that position with an FI that serves those needs for you. And some of them, including us, do things to help make that switch easier. So when we onboard a new account, we have an onboarding process that allows them to more easily switch, say when you have all your subscriptions to things loaded into your debit card. And so we try to make that lift as easy as we can when people decide to join Armed Forces Bank. But yeah, it's important to be with an FI that you trust, and the pain of switching might just be worth it.
I think back to, I'm going to use a big picture look at the perception of banks, right? Banks, you both know this, banks have a trust issue sometimes with the consumer, and with a bailout a couple decades ago nearly, and with just the intimidation factor of people walking into banks, whether you're civilian or military, it's just, you don't feel ready for that. And to have a trusted advisor, or to have, and Jamie, you're a financial planner, so you understand the importance of knowing what you know and make sure you give good advice and that you get that seal of approval from them, knowing that we have a military connection. It's almost like we get that seal of approval. There's an inherent unconditional trust that when you're dealing with a military bank that understands the military needs, then we should do what we're supposed to do and take care of them. And that from a service standpoint, Net Promoter Score is a big deal for us. And we were always in the high 20s, low 30s, probably 5 or 6 years ago, Jodi. And we have ramped that up considerably. We now on the retail side are getting close to 80 on a Net Promoter Score every month. So that's probably why we went to a new tagline of "This is who we are," that she and I are wearing this shirt today, that it's about giving back to the community, but it's also doing the right thing, doing it with integrity and having respect for our clients. And it's just, I guess we wake up every day and just do that.
Sometimes I think there are companies out there that take advantage of the military connection. So people are either overly trusting or overly wary of it. So it's nice to see other institutions that genuinely have people's interest at heart and trying to help the military families.
We're also proud of having nearly 30 Bank of the Year awards for Armed Forces Bank. And one of the nomination components from all branches of service is, what are you doing to combat predatory lending? Mm-hmm. What are you as a bank doing to do that? And we always list 5 or 6 things that we do that are doing just that. And back to your point, Jamie, about who do I trust? Because you think about all these text messages, we get these phone calls, these emails. Trust has eroded quite a bit, just across industries for the most part. And yeah, you want that go-to person that face to face, or that because they PCS just like you did, then you want to have that kind of relationship with your banker.
According to your survey findings, people are getting a lot of their financial information from family and friends, but yet they're saying they're hesitant to save, or they don't think they're going to be able to save. I thought another interesting data point, only 30% indicated that they currently use investment services. What are some things that we can do as a financial institution, as a podcast, in increasing people's financial readiness, caring deeply about military readiness through financial strength for families, to increase people's opportunity to find that money to save so their future is more secure and less stressful?
Yeah, you broke down kind of who was responding to the survey. You've got veterans, you've got retirees, and you've got active duty. The answers may be a little different for all three based on where they're at in life's journey and their financial journey. For that person that's enlisted, particularly if they're maybe more on the junior enlisted side, a lot of the things we've already talked about, how do they find those extra dollars wherever they might be, making sure they avoid fees at their bank, things that just eat away at money kind of with no value add on the other end. I think that helps them do the things that you should do early in your financial journey, that setting up a savings account, having an emergency fund, so that if life throws you a zinger, and it's going to, unfortunately, I promise that is something I can guarantee, that you're able to care for that without necessarily needing to use credit to do that, preferably if you can do that. For folks as they move further down life's journey, especially if they're, retiree that's transition, making sure that they've got access to good education at the point of transition, especially if there's somebody that's going to transition out of the military and go into a second career. So now you potentially have two incomes. I mean, that's the situation my family's in. He's retired, so he's got his military income, he's got his disability income, but yet he's now working in a civilian job. So do you need to spend all of that money? Probably not. Should you be putting away some of that money and doing things with it? Should you ask really great questions when you transition to a civilian employer about their 401k? How do you max out the match that they might provide and use that as a barometer of where you should go to work? So I think the answer kind of depends based on where they're at, but it's making sure, like if you look at our library of blogs and topics we try to cover, we try to provide education that meets people where they're at, whether they're that brand new person that doesn't have, first paycheck, maybe off to boot camp they go, or the person that's very seasoned, retired, has multiple income streams coming in and needs to maximize that because they're closer to retirement age. And maybe if they did or didn't plan as well leading up to that, they've got a shorter runway to get ready.
I also think, Jamie, that home ownership, which 51% in our survey, right, said that's important for military families. We already talked about inflation, but we also know that the real estate values have gone up considerably. Mortgage rates being as high as they are makes it very difficult to decide if you want a mortgage or do you rent or do you buy, right? And another value proposition for us is that we've got military spouses that are our mortgage lenders here. We've got one that's married to a 3-star general that has been in this business for a couple decades, and she will take the time to just walk through the affordability, the debt to income, the programs we have like zero lender fees or interest rate reduction, refinance loan, or hero loans for those that are serving our country in other capacities too, that we've got so many different programs. And the VA side of the house, and I tell this to Jodi from that survey, 6% of the 21 million veterans have used their VA benefit. So I think it's incumbent upon us and our competitors and anybody that's in the financial services space to provide a conduit or provide resources and education outlets for them to understand how to use that VA. And I say it just, sometimes life goes so fast, you don't know what's right in front of you from a benefit standpoint. And really when we're face-to-face or through digital or through our podcast or through other medium, that we educate them as best we can to give them the right decision, the right artillery to make that choice.
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back to the show.
It's no secret Spencer and I are both huge fans of the Thrift Saving Plan, the military's version of the 401k retirement plan. We've both been investing in the TSP for over 14 years and are thrilled to announce we've consolidated all the information you need to know into a new course called the Confident TSP Investing Course.
That's right. The course is a comprehensive guide to navigating the TSP, breaking it down to easy, bite-sized chunks that lay out the basics of the thrift savings plan, the funds available, and the investing strategies so you can build wealth while you serve.
We both know what it's like to be a beginner and to be overwhelmed with all the information that's out there about investing in the TSP. Head over to militarymoneymanual.com/TSP, Tango Sierra Papa, to find our simple breakdown of all you need to know. You get lifetime access, and we'll have a growing library of content. And one of my favorite parts about the course is that for every course we sell, we're going to be donating one to an E4 or below.
Yeah, I love that feature of the course, Jamie. So if you're an officer, an NCO, a senior NCO out there, and you purchase a course, first of all, thank you. And also know that you're helping a fellow service member, a sailor, a soldier, a Marine, an airman, a guardian, a Coast Guardsman, E4 or below, take one step closer to their financial success.
The link's in the show notes, or head over to militarymoneymanual.com/TSP, where you can sign up for the Confident TSP Investing course. Now, back to the show.
3 more questions that I wanted to get to, the time that we have left. So the first one is, your bank provides some of those new recruit, those new PCS indoctrination briefs on finances. Do you get any trends of questions from those briefs? Like what are the young enlisted? What are they new to the military? What are they worried about? What are they thinking about? Is there anything that you guys have noticed in terms of trends with the younger enlisted and officers coming in?
I'll probably need your help on this one too, because, it's always about that shiny new toy, right? Sometimes they want the most expensive car with the highest payment, I hate to see people that have to go into a first payment default when they do that. And it's a balance, right? I'm not sure as we see our folks at Great Lakes, we make it a point to start with the basics with them, and that we get them to have access to their account, knowing that they've got 24/7 access. They've got a debit card that they can use. They can move money through digital banking. We want to get them on the road to savings. I'd say more often than not, we're opening a checking or savings with them. The responsible credit side of the house is, they want a credit card too. They want spending ability. They want capability to have access to funds that, to Jodi's point about what people get paid in the military, it's never going to be enough if we don't do something about it. But to have that responsible credit, to be able to have a security in a savings account that's securing that credit card, that they want to have access to funds to be able to use it when they can, because they typically aren't going to have extra money sitting in savings when they enlist. If we provide sort of that, I guess, top of the first inning for them and be that trusted advisor for them, then certainly, yes, they can graduate to whether it's an unsecured loan, which Jodi is a professor at that product, because it's also responsible credit. And then as they graduate, just like they would graduate through the military, credit score, we find that a lot, Jodi. People ask us, can I have my credit score like this, right? There's always freecreditreport.com. There's other credit cards that give you your credit score. But military career advancement requires good credit worthiness and good credit history. And so I think when we have that audience, because about 50% of our new business comes from that younger enlisted, but we also have clients that have been with us for 60 years. So we've got very diverse population, but the clamoring is, I want access. I want to do it on my own time, and I want to be able to do it digitally, and I don't want to have to deal with people. And so there's an audience like that, and we've got to cater to that, make sure that we are digitally sound and that we are available when they need us. But Jodi, if you want to add anything else to, especially what you're seeing when people come knocking on our door for credit.
The only couple of things I would say is that at that briefing early on, when they're early in their financial journey, we're probably answering questions that they don't know they have. So we're trying to get ahead of it because it may be their very first paycheck. And so, wow, I've got $1,300. What am I going to do this weekend? We need to, let's reel it back in and let's do something productive, at least with part of the money. And then you can go have a blast with the rest, I guess. But so I think that brief that I've seen Tom and his team deliver up there is really focused on what are the basics. When it comes to credit, that is my favorite age to talk to about credit. People that maybe have never tried to get a card, have tried to never get a loan because their credit bureau is pristine. It is a blank piece of paper. And that is my favorite credit report counseling to do because I want to say, don't screw it up. Everybody's going to come at you with an application for this and for that. Take it seriously. It's not, you do have to pay it back. Let's take this one step at a time. Getting them to talk to them before life throws things at them and they maybe make rash decisions is one of the very best times, I think, to have those conversations.
So you guys are hosting the Militarily Speaking podcast. And what are you guys talking about over there? Where can people find it? How long have you guys been doing it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I know Jodi loves it. That's what I hear. I don't know, you've got probably the same amount of episodes. I mean, we just did our 61st episode. I think when we thought about this, Jodi, and I think we were voluntold to do it, that when we stepped up, even though we wanted to be sort of that financial expert, I didn't want to necessarily promote products as much as I wanted to highlight and showcase these wonderful people and organizations, these military nonprofits. There's 45,000 nonprofits in the country supporting military families, service members, veterans. And we wanted to bring those hidden gems to the front and center. So when you look at our litany of episodes, we have a plethora of episodes on veteran homelessness, on taking care of mental health, wellness, PTSD issues, food insecurity, as Jodi mentioned earlier too. That what comes to mind for me is when I get a phone call from someone that says, I just listened to your podcast. Thank you very much. I just referred someone to that organization. And who would have thought that there's a, Give an Hour or Project Healing Waters. You hear about the Gary Sinise Foundation, Pat Tillman Foundation, Fisher House. Those are kind of table stakes or household names. But when you've got it's almost like a younger enlisted where you want to help them along their journey. Well, we got a lot of these guests that are joining our podcast that are in their infancy stages that need a little bit of awareness. And if we can be that showcase or that conduit of a pulpit for them to be able to share the programs and things that they're doing to help people. We started out a little bit going down a financial education route. And then next thing you know, we invited nonprofits, and we were hooked at that point, Jodi.
We've met some amazing human beings, people that served and then they exited the service for whatever reason, however they exited, and they just have a heart for service and they want to continue to be involved in this community. And we've been touched by some of the people we've met doing good work to give back to military families.
Yeah, that's great that you guys can be out there and highlighting these nonprofits that are, helping our military community, because we do have a lot of support from Uncle Sam, and there are a lot of resources available on post and on base. A lot of it does come down to just veterans helping active duty and looking after each other and having that community and making sure that we're taking care of each other, and that the organizations that support veteran homelessness and making sure that we're stamping that out. I think that's an excellent drive. I'm really glad that you guys can be using your platform supporting those causes.
Yeah, when the connection doesn't go away. I mean, my husband's been out, I think, 6 years now after serving for 20, and he's still just as connected to the guys he served with and the ladies he served with. And if something happened to him or to me or to the kids, they'd be at our front door in a heartbeat. I mean, and it's just, you want to maintain that sense of connection. And it's really cool that the podcast has turned into a way for us to help do that. Who would have thought, Tom?
All four of us are overachievers because the average podcast, from what I hear, lasts 7 episodes.
Yes.
And then it just goes away.
Yeah, Spencer and I started, we're just going to give it 5 episodes and see if we like it. And
Wow.
it started in my living room on a TV dinner tray and one microphone. And now, like Spencer said, almost 3.5 years later, I think we're coming up on 140 episodes. So it's an honor to be able to help increase the financial readiness of our military families. I think every time I run into someone that's like, oh yeah, I heard you talk about such and such on the podcast. I'd never thought of that before. I had no idea I needed to look into term life insurance or whatever the topic was. It is incredibly rewarding. So thanks for your work that you guys do over there as well.
You're like the Steve Jobs of podcasting, right? Just you started in a garage, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
Except
look what happened.
minus the billions of dollars, I guess. But yeah.
Still waiting for that part
Still-
to kick in right now.
Still waiting for the billions of dollars, but
Check the mailbox when we're done. I'm sure it's there.
Tom, Jodi, thank you guys so much for joining us on the show and talking to us about financial readiness for military service members, veterans, retirees, active duty, and military spouses, covering the whole spectrum there. A lot of great resources that you guys talk about. We'll have show notes for the listener on Apple and Spotify where they can check it out. A couple other resources mentioned: annual credit report, the Armed Forces Bank blog. That's afbank.com/blog. And you've also got your education set up in there, afbank.com/education. Great resources to check out. Tom, Jodi, thanks again so much for joining us. And listener, if you got value out of the podcast, please share it with a friend, a colleague, a coworker, a family member who's in the military or connected to the military. Leave us a 5-star review, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Military Money Manual podcast.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.